Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick recap each week of what's going on in space. And today we're going to be talking about the third week of August 2019. Our first item has to do with commercial heavy lift rockets that are coming online. We have three major vehicles under development right now. I wanted to just give you a quick recap on them. The one that most people are familiar with right now is the SpaceX Starship. This is the most advanced vehicle carrying the biggest payload. The capacity is planned for 220,000 pounds into low Earth orbit, and the vehicle will be fully reusable. To put this in a little bit of perspective, that's roughly 4 full space shuttle payloads per launch that this thing could take into low Earth orbit. The next contender is Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket. Also a very robust rocket that's reusable and would be able to take 99,000 pounds into low Earth orbit. And last, the Vulcan Heavy, which is a smaller vehicle, but still able to take 67,000 pounds of payload into orbit, more than a space shuttle payload. So all these vehicles are under development, and all three of them will carry materials into orbit for far less than the Space Launch System. So we have a very bright future in terms of commercial space. However, not everyone welcomes this bright future. When Senator Shelby of Alabama heard that the NASA administrator was looking into commercial alternatives to launching an unmanned Orion test mission, he basically had a temper tantrum, yelled at the administrator, and used his power as the chairman of the Appropriations Committee to push NASA around. And as a result, NASA ended up giving the management of the Lunar Lander program to Huntsville. And so now they will have that. This is apparently a peace gesture, although that's a little bit of theorizing on my part. So whatever happens, it seems that the schedule and cost are not the main items for Senator Shelby. It's that the jobs are in Alabama. We have a delay in the test flight of the SpaceX Starhopper vehicle. The test flight we're talking about is the goal is to get up to about 600 feet and then safely land the test vehicle afterward. The reason for the delay is SpaceX is working with the FAA to identify any hazards, risks of the launch, and to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and that safety is maintained. So the launch was decided to be rescheduled for later in August, sometime between 20th, 25th, something like that. And we'll see how this flight goes. It'll be exciting. More SpaceX news. We talk about the SpaceX Starship, but really that's half of the system. The Starship is the second stage. The first stage is called the Super Heavy. And similarly to how SpaceX is building prototypes of the Starship, they've now begun building a prototype of the Super Heavy first stage here in Florida. So this is exciting stuff. And the thinking is right now that they could have an orbital test of the system in 2020 with a very, very small possibility of having an orbital test by the end of this year. But 2020 is the way to bet. Speaking of schedule, the Space Launch System contractors say they don't think they'll be able to do the test flight when they thought they'd be able to, and it's going to probably be in 2021. While this is an additional extension of the program and the bill, they don't think that this will necessarily impact the flight of the second mission, Artemis 2. That could still happen in 2022. So we're looking at the first flight in 2021 and the second flight in 2022. Nuclear thermal propulsion is a big upgrade over chemical propulsion, roughly being twice as efficient as our current rockets that use chemical propulsion. And Nuclear thermal is getting more and more attention, more resources. Right now, the current NASA budget has, I believe, $125 million for nuclear thermal. There's a whole lot of benefits. Many of them relate to future Mars missions. And there's a lot of problems with going to Mars in terms of the human factors of exposing the crew to microgravity, to radiation, and so forth during a long period of time it takes to get to Mars and the long period of time it takes to get back. So with nuclear thermal, you could roughly cut the trip times in half, which would solve a lot of problems. And congratulations to NASA and Congress for being a little bit visionary here and trying to pursue nuclear thermal. Astronauts at the space station have done some remodeling up there. They've put in a second docking port so that ISS can accommodate 2 commercial spacecraft at the same time. So for example, you could have a SpaceX Dragon berthed at the space station, and you can also have a Boeing Starliner at the very same time docked at the space station. And this would be in addition to, for example, like the Soyuz that might be there. So we're increasing the capacity of the space station, preparing for the commercial crew stuff to come online. So that's great news to see happening. That's it for our show covering the 3rd week of August. We'll see you in a week or so, and we'll cover the balance of the month. So take care, and we'll see you then.